行动。一定要精神上！中国军人永不言败。
Dante Lam is back with a sequel to his hit film Operation Red Sea, this time titled Operation Hadal. Operation Hadal began shooting in 2023 under the title of Operation Red Sea 2, but due to the escalating conflict happening in Yemen Red Sea, the title had to be changed to Operation Leviathan. And up until the final release of the film, the title was given as Operation Hadal. Operation Hadal sees an organization having a project in place called Project Stella, which is a project that involves an underwater nuclear detonation capable of causing a tsunami resulting in mass destruction. The organization has put a halt to the project, but a rogue soldier disapproves of the termination and takes matters into his own hands. The Chinese managed to catch wind of said plans when they intercepted a foreign stealth submarine. The Chinese government wastes no time in dispatching a new crew of submariners accompanied by the Jiang team in putting a stop to the Project Stella. 3 of the stars return. Du Zhang returns being promoted to second in command of the Jiang team. Another returning member is the female Jiang Luxia and Sniper, played by Wang Yiling. Also returning is Zhang Hanyu, but his role is slightly different from Operation Red Sea 1, but is only noticeable to those who remember his ranking and position during the first outing. After his disappointing outing with The Rescue and Bursting Point, which both failed horribly at the box office, Operation Hadal sees him returning to more assured territories. As demonstrated with The Rescue and Bursting Point, Dante Lam tends to overstuff his films with so many ingredients and pointless plot points that go nowhere. For Operation Hadal, it features way too many characters, and Lam tries to give even the minor non-essential characters some kind of story, but in doing so, it removes important screen time for the lead characters. The Chinese title of the film is called "蛟龍行動", which means Jiaolong Operation, but Jiaolong here has less screen time than those featured within the submarine. The main focus is Han Xiao and his brother, who is also team leader Huang Xuan. They are given the deepest backstory and screen time comparatively to the other Jiaolongs. Sadly, their tragic story is so generic and offers little in terms of conflict on the battlefield. Next in line is Jiaolong's second in command, Xu Hong, whose tragic story is related to a bad decision made in Operation Red Sea 1, and how it slightly affects his current judgment. But it usually amounts to nothing, and that's pretty much the extent of his character arc. Then there's Tong Li, and her characteristic is being the only female Jiaolong, and some minor point about missing her dead love interest from Red Sea 1. The other 8 Jiaolong members are so interchangeable and forgettable, you will be hard-pressed to know who's who, especially when decked out in their full gear. This also affects the action, where there's so many action scenes set within a submarine and different Jiaolongs being at different submarines, it becomes way too difficult to distinguish who is who and where is where. In fact, the most prominent face is the submarine sonarist, who's a cliched archetype whose ability is to distinguish any sound in the waters. And the audience is made very aware of this by the amount of times people mention it and the amount of times it is demonstrated to the audience. He actually possesses the most growth in character, seeing him fail, then trying to learn from failure, and then succeed. Plus, he's not decked out in any gear or mixed in the action beats, making him more distinguishable. Dante Lam's quick editing and frenzied camera is back in full force. Once again, Lam credits himself with action design, but choreographing duties were done by Brett Chan of the TV series fame Warriors. Accompanying Chan is Tim Wong, who is also known for another Chinese blockbuster, The Creations of Gods. Brett Chan is no stranger to shooting in China, having worked on the Netflix series Marco Polo. Brett Chan brings along a team of well-established stunt individuals from all over the globe. Sadly, the film gives little opportunity for Brett Chan to show off his choreography skills, since the film is edited to excessive amounts. On top of that, Lam is super controlling when it comes to the action design. So much of the film is more evident of his style with quick cuts and quick pans. There are plenty of action scenes littered throughout the film. One can feel it getting a tad excessive, with one saving factor is the situation the action takes place in, adding slight variety. An opening shootout on an oil rig, which the film crew actually boarded on a live working oil rig to shoot on, features some nice wire gags mixed with shootouts. Then we have a scene on a submarine where the water has half submerged the sub, and the Jiaolong have to swim through and eventually encountering special forces soldiers, leading to a brief hand-to-hand combat. Things follow with a chase through the sub and a shootout. Then we have the finale, where the Jiaolong split and divide into 2 teams to infiltrate 2 separate enemy bases, which see so many shootouts and some hand-to-hand combat. Then interspersed between all of the action scenes are submarine battles. On top of that, there are action beats involving people rappelling outside of the submarine under the water to fix the sub, people trying to put out a burning torpedo room, and people diving into flooded coolant compartment to fix the broken pipes. Lam always seems to like to have some build-up, but but seems to want to jump into the action way too quickly, which can at times negate any tension. For example, near the beginning, we see a Jiang member who is nervous to attack, and we see a glimpse of it, but before it can really sink in, the action has already kicked off. Or during the midsection where the rebelling soldiers have been compromised, and a team of soldiers are sent to apprehend them. And we see a moment of the soldiers positioning themselves, and then the action kicks in before you can feel any tension. Things are slightly better with the submarine versus submarine battles, where the cuts are less frantic, and usually something happening to one sub, it will cut to the corresponding submarine to make it easier to distinguish. There's a level of tension that Lam does maintain for these scenes, as the cat and mouse between the hero sub and the villain sub is played out, with a lot of visual given to the monitor screens and the people waiting intently. As the film progresses, things become a bit too much, and you will start thinking it's getting a tad absurd with the excessive levels of dangers imposed throughout, like how the submarine will be facing an imminent threat, then another moment of danger will escalate, then another, all stacking up, and you will start to roll your eyes at the level of absurdity. As a Chinese film, there's a certain amount of patriotism to be expected for these films, though thankfully it's not forced to the audience as much as other films of this ilk. There are rousing speeches made throughout, and it can be cringy at times, but the worst offender of cringe is when it seems like all hope is lost, and then the captain of the submarine pulls out a harmonica and starts playing a song, and then all the crew members are riled up and find the strength to soldier on. Returning as DP is Peter Pao, who previously collaborated with Dante on The Rescue, as well as Battle of Changjing. Sadly, the way the film is shot seems far removed from the usual Peter Pao styling. Pao's more stylistic and calmer with his camera movements, where the usual camera will ease into the action, while The Rescue was closer in this style. Operation Hadal sees the camera closer to the typical Dante Lam affair, where whip pans and quick zooms are aplenty. Those who watched all the promotional material leading up to the release will know how much of the work was put into the film. Almost 4 one-for-one submarines were created for the film, which is commendable, and it's an impressive feat, but it's rather excessive since it will be hard-pressed for the audience to know what was real or CGI. The interior was all built, and Lam makes sure the audience can see that with the various chambers, with an impressive long shot going through the various compartments. Overall, the CG is impressive, the underwater battles are well rendered and edited, as is the moments involving actors underwater, which was partially shot dry with CG water afterwards. The only negative is the CGI mechanical dog at the end. It did not flow right, and it remained rather jittery throughout. Then we have the acting. The Chinese actors all serve their roles just fine. That's considering nothing much is asked of them. Though I do feel that Huang Xuan, who plays the team leader Mengchuang, is heavily miscast. Don't get me wrong, he's a good actor, but he does not carry the authority needed for the role. It's the foreign cast that falters the most, with some overacting here and there, though occasionally it's not due to the actor's fault, considering the pretentious dialogue they are given. There's one scene in particular where it's supposed to demonstrate the lead villain's relationship with another captain, which feels very awkward, and it never felt natural. It never felt like a natural conversation someone would have. As negative as I may sound, the film does have its merits. The film moves at a brisk pace, and the second half of the film is non-stop action. The musical score is fantastic from Dante Lam's frequent collaborator, Elliot Leung. Leung brings a certain intensity to the action beats. The action is varied, and if you're a fan of big explosions, then you will enjoy this. The submarine battles are a rare sight, especially in Chinese films, and Lam delivers great underwater battle scenes. At the end of the day, the film is highly entertaining, though it may not be as concise as Red Sea 1 or Operation Mekong. Operation Hadal has got non-stop action throughout to make up for the weak story.
派遣了最新型的猎杀级核潜艇，
目标将会执行一项绝密军事计划。
准备行动！一定要精神上！中国军人永不言败！